What's your issue?
So my issue is on free trade agreements, and right now we're working on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's a new trade agreement that's being negotiated currently with 8 other countries in the United States, and we're trying to really educate the people.
Wait, eight other countries you mean in the Americas?
No.
Not in the United States.
Huh?
You said 8 other countries with the United States?
Yes.
Okay. I'm in search.
And so we're really worried about this because right now there's over 600 corporations that are at the negotiating table, and stakeholders, environmentalists aren't really getting a say, and there's, unlike the leaked documents that we have, we're really afraid that access to medicines is going to be limited, and also they're actually starting their financial services chapter from like a pre-crisis starting point, which, as you see, it didn't end up very well for the economy and for us. So we want to make sure that there's safeguards on financial measures, that access to medicine is preserved, and that people do have a say in these documents, these trade agreements. One of the things that's most worrying is the only thing that they've actually released is a memo of understanding saying they won't talk about anything until 4 years after the talks conclude or the deal is negotiated. So that's really scary for the American people.
Alright, but what is the issue with medicine? Because I gotta imagine that's a big deal, but what's the deal with that?
One of the issues to medicine is they're trying to tighten up the intellectual property rules and also patent and data exclusivity, and what that does is it limits access to generic medications. Generic medications are used in PEPFAR, which is our President's Emergency Program for AIDS relief, and also to help treat people with like tuberculosis and malaria in low-income countries. So if pharmaceutical companies aren't able to produce generic medications, these programs don't have access to them, and it really blocks access to medicine for low-income countries.
So how would this free trade agreement endanger generics, I suppose is the question.
Because what they're doing is they're making patent rules a little bit more stricter. So for instance, let's say you're the company that patented Tylenol. So if you change the color of that Tylenol, not anything in the formula, or not even anything that makes the drug more effective, you can extend the limit on your patent, and other companies aren't allowed to make generic medicines until that patent is expired. For instance, in the United States, like Lipitor, which is like one of the main cholesterol drugs, a lot of people are benefiting from that because the patent on that just expired. So companies are able to make cheaper versions of that drugs, and we get to reap the benefits of that. Another thing that's really scary is that as of yet, they haven't carved out a ban on formularies, which is how we get our Medicare, Medicaid benefits, and also affects veterans benefits and access to medicine. And so what states do is they negotiate to get prescription costs lowered. Some states can even save up to 50% on prescription drugs. And so it's really scary when those aren't being exempted from these trade agreements. And trade agreements, they reach a lot farther than just imports and exports and tariffs. There's actually investor state laws that can affect our own domestic policies, such as food safety, consumer rights, and our environmental policies can all be challenged because of these trade agreements.
Alright, well I suppose the contrarian view would be that if you make generics too easy, then people won't produce new drugs. So we'll just have what we have and we won't have any new medications.
Well, we'll have new medications. One of the myths is that, research and development is where all of the pharmaceutical companies are really making their money and dedicating a lot of their budget to, which isn't true. It's more going towards marketing and advertisement, and a lot of the development of these new drugs is actually done in the public sector, in universities and institutions like the National Institute of Health, and then it goes through like clinical testing and things like that through pharmaceuticals.
Alright, and aside from the medicine, is there any other issue?
Of course, there's always job loss. Two of the countries are Malaysia and Vietnam, and also Singapore, which, sometimes there's abominable working conditions, and also they have lower environmental rules and labor standards than we do. So what's to stop our corporations here from shipping their factories over there, not only making us lose more jobs at a time when the country's at 9% unemployment, but also, keeping and perpetuating lower labor standards in other countries.
Alright, well I suppose the counter-argument would be that more free trade means more trade in both directions,
But that actually doesn't happen. As you can see, we've lost a lot of industries. We really have a manufacturing industry that's on the decline right now, as you can see with our auto imports and things like that. for instance, we just passed the Korea Free Trade Agreement, and one of the big things that we were hoping to increase is auto imports. And it's not two-sided. They're not buying our cars, they're not buying our products, and actually we're consuming more of their products because they're cheaper, because they're made with less labor standards, less environmental standards, and then that's passed on to us as the consumer, but it's not actually helping us to build jobs and build our own communities and economic stability.
Alright, and you're doing a big teaching, but it can't be just you doing the teaching. I mean, is it part of a larger organization?
No, this is an issue we really care about, so we really want to spread the word.
So you're not part of anybody. This is an issue that you came across and you're like, oh my god.
I've done a lot of work with international movements, with different nonprofits and organizations and NGOs, but it's an issue I really care about, and it affects the 99% when the only people that are invited to the table are the 1%.